Friends, we start with a new topic, penalties and prosecutions. In fact, before we start with this particular topic, let me share my own feelings towards this particular topic. When I am going through this particular topic, I feel in case if a person willfully conceals the income, there is a possibility that he may need to pay more than what the income he concealed. Of course, as we proceed in the law, because you are all future tax practitioners and tax planners, being chartered accountants, you need to perfectly understand this and thereby help the people who are in deep soup. But other way around, friends, if I look at the consequence of concealment is, first, you need to pay the tax on the concealed income. Let us suppose in case of a company SC, 30% is a tax. Then they may be asked to pay the penalty, which may be extended to 3 times of the tax. Let us suppose they concealed 1 lakh of the income. 1 lakh into 30% works out to be how much? 30,000. 3 times of that means what? 90,000. 90 plus 30 is how much? Yes, 1,20,000. In addition to that, 234 ABC interest. So that means if you are caught, then what you need to pay to the government could well exceed what the income you tried to conceal. So this is the most damaged situation. Of course, in that context, there are 2 things, like willfully whether you did or unintentionally because of lack of knowledge of the taxation law, you did that. That really matters. Of course, earlier the situation is like, it is the department which need to prove that the SSC intentionally, willfully, with a culpable state of mind, he has done this concealment. But now with the changed view, now it is for the SSC to prove that he don't have that culpable state of mind. This is one important aspect. So mens rea, what do you mean by mens rea? That is that criminal act you are doing, and at the time when you are doing the act, your mind is having a perfect intention to do that. Sometimes crimes we do, but which are not planned, because situation forced us to get into that. So even in a criminal law also try to understand, if somebody makes a murder of other, then also punishment depends upon the state of mind of the culprit. Is it a pre-planned or is it something which happened because of that situation? But in any case, under the income tax law, it is very clear that now it is not for the department to that you have got a culpable state of mind. The moment the department says that you have got culpable state of mind, they need not prove it. You have to disprove it by saying that concealment in no way took place because of that culpable state of mind of mine. So this is one important thing. So we are starting our discussion with who can impose the penalty, then what is the procedure that should be followed when that particular penalty is going to get levied. So we need to look at 4 explanations which are being inserted below section 271 1C, and we should also know how the calculation need to be made when you need to calculate the penalty, how that has to happen. And then we will also take up during this particular session, apart from 271 1C, I will also discuss with you 271 1B also. Right. See, there are certain sections from the examination point of view also, when I look at the previous examination questions and all, I feel that perfect understanding of 4 to 5 sections is important, and overall general understanding is required with respect to the remaining. There we need not waste our time by studying in detail. If we know what is the crime and what is a penalty for that, that would be sufficient. So now let me start this concept with mens rea. What do you mean by mens rea? It is an evil state of mind, and it is a state of mind of a culprit. And what is most important is, mens rea is to be presented, is present if a person does something wrong deliberately, knowing that his action is against the law. That this person had got a guilty mind while committing the act is the point. So at the time when you are doing that particular crime, you have got a mind which clearly says that what you are doing is a mistake and contravention of the law. So what is so great about the mens rea? Because in all the penalty proceedings, this is something which need to be checked, and of course it is for the SSC to prove that he don't have the culpable state of mind, and the crime which has happened is not something deliberate or knowingly happened. Write down the point. Section 273B, section 273B provides that penalty shall not be levied. Penalty shall not be levied if the SSC proves, that there was a reasonable cause, for the failure. Thus, burden of proof has been shifted to the SSC. Burden of proof has been shifted to the SSC. Then you write one more section. Next point, section 278E relating to the prosecution. Section 278E provides that every court shall presume the existence of criminal mental state on the part of the accused in any prosecution requiring such mental state. So now who has to prove that he don't have the mental state? It is for the SSC to prove that he don't have the mental state of doing that particular criminal act. Now, having understood the importance of the mens rea in the penalty and prosecution proceedings, now it is very clear in your mind that for the department, if it just throws the word that you have got a culpable state of mind, it is for the SSC to prove that he don't have. And penalty and prosecution should happen only when there is a culpable state of the mind, and at many places we will be studying that in case if the SSC can prove that the act which is supposed to get penalty for him or prosecution is something which he has not done with a culpable state of the mind, then the penalty proceedings will be dropped. As a CA finalist or as a future CA, you are supposed to first understand which acts of the SSC could lead to a penalty or prosecution. Second thing is how you have to help your SSC by out of that particular penalty and prosecution. Yes. Now in this context, first thing is who can levy the penalty? Who can levy the penalty, friends? It is the assessing officer, or it is the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, or it can be a Commissioner of Income Tax Regular. These are the three persons who can levy the penalty. Now in this context, you should understand, first, in order to levy the penalty, necessarily penalty proceedings must be initiated. And when we say penalty proceedings must be initiated, a show cause notice must be given asking the SSC to tell why the penalty cannot be levied on him. Because principles of natural justice requires what? Opportunity of being heard be given to the SSC. So most important thing is, without any proceedings being initiated, you can't levy the penalty is the point. And moreover, they are to be started by issuing a, what is it, a show cause notice. Now within what time it has to be done, or when he has to initiate that particular penalty proceedings. For that, what we are saying, assessing officer shall levy the penalty for concealment on the additions made by him in an assessment or reassessment. Let us suppose your case is taken up for assessment under section 143(3) or 144, regular assessment and best judgment assessment, or reassessment under section 147, and if he is going to make certain additions, and if he feels that whatever that he has added, SSC tried to conceal it, not that all the additions will attract the penalty, not that all the additions will attract the penalty, but those additions where the assessing officer feels that with the intention the SSC tried to conceal it, and he has found with all his effort that particular amount and made an addition, yes. So we said 3 persons can levy the penalty. So in that context, assessing officer can levy the penalty on the additions which he is making at the time when he is making the assessment and the reassessment. And try to understand, when we say assessing officer can levy the penalty, such a penalty proceedings must be initiated before the completion of the assessment. That is, after the completion of the assessment, you can't start with this particular penalty proceedings. Then we also say, like CIT appeals can levy the penalty. When CIT appeals shall levy the penalty for concealment of the income when the additions are made by him in an order passed under section 250. So CIT appeals while passing the order under section 250, if he feels that there is a concealment, he can levy the penalty, but for that he has to initiate the penalty proceedings by what time? Before passing that particular order under section 250 is the point. Similarly, Commissioner of Income Tax, when he takes up the case for revision under section 263, at that time if he makes certain additions and if he has got a perfect proof, or perfectly if he feels that yes, there is a culpable state of mind and the SSC has concealed the income, he can levy the penalty, but that penalty proceeding must also be done, start before the passing of the order under section 263. So the 3 important points is who can levy the penalty, at what time they can levy the penalty. For levying the penalty proceedings, penalty proceedings must be initiated at what time. This is most important for you to understand and remember. Write down. Penalty proceedings must be initiated. Penalty proceedings must be initiated before levying any penalty. Before levying any penalty. Next, penalty proceedings are initiated. Penalty proceedings are initiated by issuing a show cause notice. A show cause notice. Now, who are the persons who can levy the penalty? 3 persons already we discussed: assessing officer, Regular CIT, CIT appeals. Write down. Next point. Assessing officer shall levy penalty for concealment of income. Shall levy penalty for concealment of income on additions made by him, underline, on additions made by him, underline, on additions made by him in an assessment or reassessment and proceedings must be initiated by the assessing officer before the completion of the assessment. Next point. CIT appeals. Next point. CIT appeals shall levy penalty for concealment of income, on additions made by him, in an order passed, under section 250, and proceedings must be initiated, that is, penalty proceedings must be initiated before passing the order under section 250. Then the last person, the next point. Commissioner of Income Tax, for your understanding, always I say Commissioner of Income Tax are regular, so that you make the distinction between CIT and CIT appeals. That is jurisdictional commissioner, whom we call them as CIT regular. Now, Commissioner of Income Tax, third point. Commissioner of Income Tax shall levy penalty for concealment of the income, on the additions made by him, in an order passed under section 263, and proceedings must be initiated before passing the order under section 263. See, in the above 2 points also you please underline on the additions made by him. Sir, what is so great about it? Right? What is so great about it is, case has gone up to Supreme Court level. What is the situation for which case has gone up to the Supreme Court level? In Shadiram Balmukand case, regular assessing officer took up the case for regular assessment. SSC filed the return with 2 lakhs. And the assessing officer in the regular assessment made an addition to the tune of 60,000. Thereby making the total income to 2,60,000. And he initiated the penalty proceedings before the completion of the assessment. And then the SSC filed the appeal with the CIT appeals, and CIT appeals not only confirmed the order of the assessing officer, he also found out 50 more thousand rupees of the additional income. Thereby total income is brought to 3,10,000. Now our Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals levied a penalty of 1,10,000. In that context, what we say, CIT can only levy penalty in respect of additions that he made. What is that he made? 50,000. Assessing officer can levy the penalty only in respect of the additions that he made. What is it? 60,000. Not that assessing officer can levy penalty of 60,000. Again, the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeal is going to levy a penalty of 60 plus 50, 110. SSC मरिया था, है या नहीं? तो इसीलिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट क्या बताए? Supreme Court held that assessing officer can levy penalty for concealment on additions made by him and not on the additions made by the CIT appeals. Similarly, CIT appeals can levy the penalty only on the additions made by him and not on the additions made by the assessing officer. Yes. See, a detailed discussion we are making in the penalty and proceedings, because these are all very important and interesting points. Unless you learn the law in this way, even if you pass the CA, there is no use. Because when something happens to the person, an accident took place, he got admitted in the emergency and blood is flowing. If the doctor also start crying, then what is the fate of the patient? See, whenever SSCs भाग के तुम्हारे पास आते ना, ये लेटर आए, वो लेटर आए, ये नोटिस आए, वो नोटिस आए, you have to keep a smiling face, like how a doctor keeps a smiling face even before a person who is going to die in the next 5 minutes. Will the doctor say, you are going to die in the next 5 minutes? No. He will say, you will have a very long life. Right? Like that only, as a practitioners, you should never cry when some penalty proceedings or prosecution proceedings are initiated against your clients. But that and all you will be able to do when you have got a perfect knowledge to how to take them, bring them away from the greatest damages. Right? So that and all comes with practice. and experience. But for that, fundamental knowledge must be perfect. So don't feel bad even if I proceed this particular penalty and prosecution discussion to 4 hours. Back to the point. There will be no penalty for concealment of the income on additions made which involves a question of law. Earlier we discussed enough of question of law when we are studying the assessment proceedings. That is authorities, income tax authorities. What is it? In respect of the matters involving the question of fact, who is the ultimate fact finding authority, fact finding body? ITAT, Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. In respect of the matters involving the question of law, case can be taken up till High Court and Supreme Court. So let us suppose there is an addition made and it involves a question of law, and every citizen need not have the entire knowledge of the law. So that made us to say that if the matter involves a question of law, because the SC is illiterate in respect of the law, he could not interpret the law properly, that made him to get into such act, then yes, no penalty will be levied. That is the reason why all times we try to help the client by looking at these exceptions. That is, when penalty cannot be levied if the matter involves a question of law. Write down. There will be no penalty. There will be no penalty for concealment of income on any addition made on a question of law. Made on a question of law. See, one important point which you made a note is, penalty proceeding must be initiated before the order is passed by the assessing officer or CIT appeal under section 250 and Commissioner of Income Tax regular under section 263. What we said, penalty proceedings must be initiated before the order for the assessment is passed, or appeal order is passed, or revision order is passed. But this holds good only if the penalty is going to be levied for concealment of the income. But apart from the concealment of the income, there are many other acts, or there are many other violations of what you are supposed to do, which could also attract the penalty. There is no requirement that the penalty proceedings must be initiated before the assessment orders or revisionary orders or appellate orders are passed. So write down this particular point. Penalties such as penalty for failure to get tax audit done, or penalty under section 271F, penalty under section 271F for late filing of the return can be initiated even if the even if the assessment is not made, even if the assessment is not made on the SSC. That is, such proceedings can be, initiated at any time, can be initiated at any time. Right. Now friends, who can initiate or who can levy the penalty, you all well understood. For concealment of the income, who can levy the penalty, you all well understood. Now the most important point is, against the penalty order, if the SSC want to make an appeal, before whom he has to cry? That is, before whom he has to make an appeal. Let us suppose if the penalty is levied by the assessing officer, then you go and cry before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. But in case if Commissioner of Income Tax regular or Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals is going to levy the penalty, then you have to go to a higher up, that is Income Tax Appellate Tribunal के सामने you have to make the appeal. Point of interest is, I don't think so students have got any doubt regarding the point that the assessing officer, in case if he levies the penalty, I can go to CIT appeals. If CIT appeals is going to levy the penalty, I will go to the ITAT. Point to be remembered is, if CIT regular levies the penalty, when he takes up the case under section 263, then against the penalty levied by the regular commissioner, you can't go to the CIT appeals, because both the positions are the same rank positions. Law clearly states that Commissioner of Income Tax regular, exercising his revisionary powers, at that point of time, if he finds concealment and makes an addition, then against such penalty order, appeal lies not before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, but it should be made before the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Of course, I will not ask you to write. Please remember. Then friends, we are discussing first section, most important section, 271(1)(c), that is penalty for concealment of the income. So write down section 270, main heading, section 271(1)(c), penalty for concealment of income. Of course, already we have discussed under all these things in 271(1)(c) only. Who can levy, you are clear. Now how much can be levied, that you write. Maximum penalty is 3 times the amount of tax sought to be evaded. Of course friends, penalty levy कर दिए, इसका ये मतलब नहीं the SSC is not supposed to pay the tax or interest. What we are discussing, the penalty is in addition to the tax and the interest under section 234 ABC. This must be clear. Of course, any section when you are studying, at the final level what is most important thing is explanations which are given below that particular section, because those explanations will give you more clarity regarding that particular section. The law, how it is made? Section, subsection, clause, subclause, proviso and explanation. So explanations are very, very relevant as you come to the final level. There are 4 explanations which are given below the 271(1)(c), and you should have a perfect understanding of those 4 explanations. See, explanation is only to give you more clarity regarding the section, not that in the explanation we are going to tell something different than what we have told in that particular section. Now your section you are clear with. What your section is saying? If the assessing officer or the commissioner appeals or the commissioner of income tax regular in the course of the proceedings under this act is satisfied that any person concealed the particulars of his income or furnished inaccurate particulars of his income, then he shall direct that such person shall pay the penalty, which shall not be less than the tax sought to be evaded. सेक्शन इतना ही रहता, मगर इसको पीसेस करके अंडरस्टैंड करना पड़ता. एक स्मॉल वर्ड और सेंटेंस को लेके 20-30 pages commentary is there. That's the reason why if you go to your chartered accountant office, you will find books like this. Income tax act is this much. You just see. There you will see 7 to 8 volumes of commentary on the income tax law. That means that much of the scope is there when you interpret the law. So, being the future interpreters of the direct tax code, because this is a sunset, income tax act, direct tax code is a sunrise. Yes. Any sunset or sunrise, ultimately the point is light should be there, rays should be there, intensity of the rays will vary as the day proceeds. Now in this context, friends, now if we say that in the course of the proceedings under this act, the assessing officer must first get satisfied that there is a concealment. When the assessing officer will presume that there is a concealment, when he can presume it is being given in the first explanation to this particular section 271(1)(c). So make side heading explanation 1 to section 271(1)(c). And then what it tries to address, write down, when it is to be presumed, that concealment taken place. Of course, here we are saying there are about 5 situations under which you can very well assume and presume that concealment has taken place. That is, write down point number 1. If a person fails to offer an explanation. Fails to offer an explanation. Right? See, these are all the things which you have to feel. That is, Nagendra concealed something before me. Our relationship demands what? He should not conceal anything to me, because I am his teacher and he is my student. But when I can presume that he has concealed a particular thing, very important knowledge. Pad और अनपढ़ में अंतर होना, right? So when I can say that he has concealed, first thing what we are saying, fails to offer an explanation. मैं पूछे उन्होंने explanation नहीं दिए. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ दोस्तों? उन्होंने कुछ छुपा रहे, conceal कर रहे. Second, if any person offers an explanation which is found to be false, दिए explanation दिए, मगर very well it can be proved that it is a false explanation. तीसरा, if any person offers an explanation which he is not able to substantiate, which he is not able to substantiate. Harita told that, sir, yesterday I saw Nagendra in the cinema hall. Yes. Nagendra said, no sir, at that point of time I am not there in the cinema hall. I am there in my friend's house. Then I asked, can I telephone to your friend and can ask it? He says, I don't have his telephone number. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ दोस्तों? He offered an explanation, but he is not able to substantiate it. Next, fourth situation. If a person fails to prove that such explanation is bona fide, fails to prove that such explanation is a bona fide, right? नागेंद्र क्या बताए? मैं सुरेंद्र के घर में है. Now Harita says, both the boys I saw them in the cinema hall. तो इसका ये मतलब क्या हुआ? जब तुम explanation दिए, you said that it is that I am there in the Surendra's house. You also gave the Surendra's telephone. When I contacted the Surendra, he also said, yes, both of us are there in our house. Now Harita says, both the boys I saw them. So this Surendra's evidence is not a correct evidence, because he is a part of this particular crime. Of course, going to cinema is not a crime. Having gone to cinema, stating that I have not gone to the cinema is a crime. So, fifth चीज क्या है? That is, any person fails to prove that all the facts relating to the same and material to the computation of his total income and materials to the computation of his total income have been disclosed by him. That is, you are claiming something like a depreciation, but ultimately you are not able to show that you really purchased the assets. So point of interest here is what? When the assessing officer can presume that there is a concealment, failure on the part of the assessee to give the explanation, or having given the explanation is found to be false, or having given the explanation, he is not able to substantiate that particular explanation, or having given the explanation he is not able to prove that it is bona fide, genuine, or failure to prove the facts relating to the concealment what we are assuming, and the computation के लिए जो documentary proof देना, he failed to do that, then one can assume and presume that there is a concealment. This is explanation 1 to section 271(1)(c), which tells us the point that under what circumstances the assessing officer can assume that there is a concealment. Earlier also we studied the point. Now the burden to prove that it is not willfully being done, mens rea is not there, is on the part of the assessee, not on the part of the department. Now we move to the second explanation. Explanation 2 to section 271(1)(c). Explanation 2 to section 271(1)(c). Of course, here I will quickly tell you in summary what is this. Later on you can write. First try to understand this. See, in a particular year assessment हो रहा, time limit is getting fastly approaching. The assessing officer asked, this much of the addition I am going to make. You said, okay, you make an addition. Next year, there are certain unexplained expenditure or unexplained investments. Then when we asked from where you got the money to incur this expenditure or to make this investment, coolly well the assessee said, last year you made an intangible addition, na? Tangible addition बोले तो क्या है? Proof is there, disallowance is made, addition is made. Intangible addition means what? That is, there is a concealment, but both the assessing officer as well as the assessee. SC could not prove that it is not concealment. Assessing officer also don't have the perfect documentary evidence that there is a concealment. Via media they have sit together and accepted for an intangible addition. इसका ये मतलब नहीं that intangible addition you can offer as a source of income for your unexplained expenditure or investment. Yes, since you have cooperated for his intangible addition, last year he has not levied any penalty. But the next year, that intangible addition, if you say that is the source of income for making the, investment or unexplained expenditure, that means you are accepting that you have really concealed it. In that case, very well, on such intangible addition, again penalty can be levied. Normally penalty proceedings cannot be initiated for concealment of the income once the assessment proceedings are closed. But in respect of the intangible additions which were subsequently stated as sources of income for the purpose of making the unexplained investment or expenditure, then that gives rise to a point that perfectly the SSE is accepting now that he has not disclosed the income properly in the last year. Then even after the completion of the assessment proceedings, he can very well, levy the penalty with respect to the last year intangible addition. So with respect to this, you have to take the notes.